Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Showing Up to Your Life podcast. My name is Art Burns, and I might be a little sleepy, but I am sure excited. Just finding new creative ways to announce myself here. Eventually, I'll do this as a pre-recorded thing, and I won't have to stumble through it every day. But yeah, I am excited. I am a little sleepy though. I usually record these podcasts and YouTube videos in the afternoon after all the juices are flowing and stuff. But today I have such a jam-packed schedule that I got to do it first thing in the morning. So yeah, it's a little a little stretchy, little sleepy, little groggy, but we'll get through it. And we're just going to accept. That's the idea, right? Like I could have, this is a great example, I should say. This is a great example of how acceptance can work, right? So, I do have a really, really busy schedule today. And it's actually, a couple of people had to reschedule, which is not anybody's fault. It's okay. It happens. And then I also have, as I have this, online calendar thing that, a link that's out there that, I never know when people are going to schedule that. And I'm so happy to talk to people, and I love it, but some days it's some very, very rarely, once in a while, it turns out that, if I could show you my calendar right now, it's like literally from 10 a.m. my time to, well, actually like 9:45 my time until like 6:30, 7 o'clock tonight. It's pretty much just back to back to back to back to back. And it's wonderful. I love it. I really love it, but it does not leave me ample time to do this recording. So I'm doing it here early in the morning. I've just had one cup of tea. I brushed my teeth and and started recording. So here I am. I'm happy to be here with you, and I hope you're doing well today. But again, as I was saying, like I could sit here and ruminate and fume and maybe even cancel appointments, right? And sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there are days where I look at my schedule, I'm like, wow, how am I going to get through this day, right? But that's that moment, right? When you start thinking, how am I going to do this? That's the time right there to stop, take a couple of breaths, and just settle into what is happening right now. Because you know what? My appointment at 4 o'clock this afternoon, who knows what's going to happen. Sometimes I get an email, some days I look at my calendar the night before, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got such a busy day. First thing in the morning, one or two people are like, I have to reschedule. And all of a sudden it's a not busy day, so you just really don't know what's going to happen. And remembering and holding in your awareness that your mind is always going to look for the worst possible case scenario, right? That's what your mind does. It's the negativity bias. We all have it. It's part of our survival network, survival mechanism, right? Because paying attention to the negative things in our lives are the things that is what is going to keep us alive, right? Like the negative things in our lives are the things that might hurt us, and so our minds will always naturally, gravitate towards those negative things. So, but now again, you're not going to be able to necessarily stop that so much, right? That's just a mechanism of your mind. It's part of your nervous system and brain that have been evolving for 180,000 years. So it's really not something you're going to necessarily change. But what you can do is you can hold it in awareness, right? You can always be aware of the fact that your mind is always going to go to the worst case scenario. And so that means that when you're looking at your calendar for the next day or for the rest of the current day, know that it's always going to seem really tough. It's always going to, like, when you look at that, you're always going to assume that you're going to be tired, or you're not going to have time to eat, or you're going to be too thirsty or whatever it is, but knowing that your mind is going to make those stories up, that allows you to see it and to step back from it. Right, as I told you yesterday, my wonderful, amazing client JC, who's just been doing this for a few months. I mean, he's been meditating for a while, but not this way. He's only been doing this work for a few months, and already he has this skill to see the tendency of his mind. right? Which is the same thing I'm talking about here. I mean, his thing was not necessarily the negativity bias; it was more his own, anger and reactivity, right? Which is also a big deal, right? But that's a personal thing, right? Not everybody has that specific. Some people might have reactivity that goes more towards like a shame or a guilt or a jealousy or these kind of things, right? JC, along with me, we have that kind of anger thing, right? Especially when it comes to something on the road. And that's what the situation was with him. But again, just like I'm talking about seeing the negativity bias and befriending it, right? Give it a gentle, loving awareness, right? It's not about, oh, you son of a gun, you negativity bias, I'm gonna get you. It's not like that, right? We want to, say, oh my gosh, look at my negativity bias. Isn't this amazing? It just showed up out of nowhere, and what an amazing thing to experience this negativity bias, right? Because when we become friends with it, when we become friends with it, we become comfortable with it, and when we become comfortable with it, it becomes easy and simple to sidestep it, right? It's not something that's like hanging over us. It's not something we're fighting with. It's something that we're, just allowing to coexist with us, right? The same way we coexist with other people, right? Like you might not love every single person in your office, right? But you know that with a certain level of cordiality, right, that you all will get along and it'll be okay. We keep our boundaries. I don't need to know everything about your life. I don't need to love you. I don't need to be a friend. But that doesn't mean we can't coexist together, right? And if I'm coexisting on a harmonious level, then I'm not like going home and thinking about what a jerk you were today and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm just, you're just here. You're just somebody who I work with, and that's cool. I'm here to help you. You're here to help me. Personally, I will encourage each other to be compassionate with each other, but compassion is not even, it's very, very helpful. But it's not absolutely necessary for the basic level of coexistence, right? But again, I'm not going to discourage you from being compassionate. That you're never going to hear me say that here, because compassion is very, very good for you, right? And so it's not about the other person so much. I mean, it is, but it's more about you, or it's equally as about you, at least. And so the idea then is the same. We can hold that same compassionate, curious, accepting presence with our emotions, with our tendencies, with our negativity bias, with our busy schedule on Outlook. We can kind of bring that same kind and gentle attitude to all of it, right? And when we do that, what we're doing is we're reducing conflict, right? And this is at very least giving us a baseline of wellness, of a baseline of cooperation that allows us to function in the world, right? And so let's talk about that idea of a baseline, right? Because yesterday and the day before, I believe me, I really appreciate your patience with me talking about my old Jerry Garcia days and my old Deadhead days and stuff. I mean, those, I still listen to the music, and and if one of like the Dead cover bands comes out here to, Red Rocks, I'll go see it for sure. It's fun. But by no means am I the same Deadhead that I was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Actually, oh my gosh, it's even longer. It's 35 years. Oh my gosh, I just felt really old. Which, by the way, birthday on Sunday right here, turning 52. Yeah, that's a big deal. But anyway, I'm a full deck of cards now. Except you got to add the Joker next year, I guess, right? Although it seems like this year should have been the Joker. But anyway, so let's talk about baseline, right? Because a lot of times when we're talking about reducing stress, and we're talking about sort of eliminating and controlling and regulating the reactivity that we often experience when we're living with chronic stress, right? That reactivity that makes us slam a door or hang up a phone real hard, or like squeeze our steering wheel like we're trying to kill it when we're stuck in traffic. That kind of, that reactivity, right? That's what reactivity is that, there's reaction and there's response, right? So response is something that you're in control and you're doing the thing that you believe to be the wise thing to do, right? That's a response. Reaction is everything that's not, right? Reaction is just boom, boom, just immediate reaction. And it's a different part of your brain that you're using, right? And that's the whole point of mindfulness, right? Is that we're bringing a level of regulation, from that emotional reactive part of our brain. We're using the cognitive part of our brain to regulate that, right? And that's and so that helps us to get past that reactivity, right? And then what we do when we get rid of or when we get kind of control over that reactivity and we transform it into response, what then we're able to do is we're able to then just kind of, that allows us to function on a baseline in our lives, right? Like if we're not slamming doors, if we're not losing our temper, if we're not, sobbing over everything that goes wrong in the day, right? Obviously these are extreme examples, but there's a spectrum, right? It's everything from the reactivity of like turning off your attention when somebody's talking to you just because you don't like them, right? Like that kind of thing, that when we can control that, we create again like a baseline, right? And now the stress that we're experiencing is just about us, right? It's just about what's happening inside our bodies. We're not allowing it to extend outward to the people around us, because the problem is with the reactivity, which is why reactivity is to stress what suffering is to pain in a way, right? So like like when you're in a painful situation, right? Like and painful can be anything from getting physically hurt to like being painfully stuck in traffic, right? That's the context that I mean that in, and maybe there's a different word I could find, but for now we're just going to go with that one. And so remember that when we're stuck in traffic, right, that's a painful thing. It's an uncomfortable and an inconvenient thing that we're going through, right? But if we allow ourselves to get all tense and angry about it, well, then that's going to add a layer of suffering on top of that pain, right? And so reactivity is kind of the same way with stress, right? Because when we're feeling stress, right, like that's in and of itself, that's one thing, right? But when we're expressing ourselves in a reactive way, that means what we're doing is we're snapping at people, we're impatient with people, we're expressing anger, or we're avoiding people, or we're doing things that are going to impact our interaction with other people, right? And so that is going to create, it's I wouldn't use the word suffering, but I might use the word karma, right? I might use the word consequence, right? Because that's what happens, right? When I slam the phone down on somebody, well, there's going to be a consequence to that, right? And that consequence is going to cause more issues for me later on, right? And so in the same way, it's like taking the stress that you're feeling and making it worse through the reactivity, right? Pardon me. So the idea then is when we practice, as I talk about in this podcast, right? When we practice presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity, right? That's my brand of this, right? I mean, that's, I'm going to write a book. It's in the works, and you'll know exactly, that'll be an official codified thing. But for now, it's really just my thing. But the idea, though, is that when we do practice those things, right? When we practice, mindfulness to develop those things, right? We develop presence, we develop the ability to accept, we develop the skill of compassion, and we develop a curious mind, the tendency to be curious, which is, again, the opposite of judging, right? If I'm curious about something, I'm not likely to judge it as good or bad. I'm looking to find out about it, right? So when we do that and we're able to lower the stress levels, or at least cut off the reactivity, right? And now we can address the stress levels, right? But what this does is, when I talk about this a lot, I talk about it in terms of like just sort of a basic functionality, right? Like Like that's the just the sort of, again, the baseline of the ability to, to function in the world, right? To not be the person who's constantly going from drama to drama to drama to drama because of reactivity, right? The person who's not just, a ball of stress and a ball of anger all the time, right? Because when you're in those places, you're not really showing up for life, right? You're not able to, you're not able to function on on a very basic level, right? And this is real, right? Because I lived this for years. For many years, I lived in a way that, I was at the mercy of my anger and reactivity, right? And that's not even hyperbole. There's no overstatement to that at all. It is absolutely true. I was at the mercy of my anger and my reactivity. And it was either a good day or it was a bad day, but I had no control over it, right? And so that's what I mean. Like I was not functional, right? I was randomly functional. I was, haphazardly functional, but I was not a functional member of society, right? Because I didn't have control over it, right? So that's the kind of baseline functionality that we talk about, and that's very important, right? Because there's a lot of people living below that line, right? Like I was for many, many years. And if you are, I can help you. Okay, and I'm starting a new program in a couple of weeks called "Be Happy for No Reason," and it really addresses exactly what I'm talking about here, right? All that below the baseline stuff, right? Of people who are stuck in that reactivity and that stress and that anger and the shame and all of it. Okay, we're going to talk about all of that, and I can help you work through that and develop. Again, it comes down to developing the skills to be able to, kind of function around that, or function in spite of that, I should say. So there's more though. Okay, that's not all, folks. If you order today, you'll get a set of Ginsu knives. Also, I'm dating myself with that one as much as the Grateful Dead. Those are old commercials, the Ginsu knives. Anyway, it was one of those commercials that just every he said that's not all like 5-6 times during the commercial. And you pay like $5 and you get like a whole truckload of stuff, I guess, delivered to your house. I never actually ordered it, but that was the ad. Anyway, I digress. There's more. Right, there's so much more. Right, and in the same way that I talk about, there's more to life. That's beyond just. There's more to live life. Right, there's love and there's compassion and there's kindness and there's beauty that you're not able to access when you're in that place of below that baseline thing, right? But once you get up to that baseline, right, that's not the end, right? Like we talked about yesterday, and again, I really appreciate your patience with me talking about Jerry Garcia. I know he's not for everyone, but, he's just, I just really love the guy. But anyway, and it's the person. It's not just the music. It's not just the iconic, figure. It's not just any of that. It's all of it, But anyway, that's my passion. Yesterday we talked about how Jerry Garcia, he talked about, and I posted the quote in the letter that I sent out to y'all and in the description of the video. He said that, it's good to have one thing in your life that is, that you can track the progress of that thing, but the progress is completely and utterly and 100% dependent on the energy that you put into it. Right. And he went on to say that centers you to something. Right. And that's what we were talking about yesterday. It really is true. It kind of creates this sort of trail marker for our lives. Right. Like every situation that I come across, I ask myself, I don't physically ask myself anymore. I used to when I first started. I would ask myself very simple questions like, is there something right now I should be accepting or I could be accepting? Is there something I could be letting go of? Am I in the present moment right now? Could I be a little more compassionate right now? Could I be curious about something? Am I assuming that I know something? Right? I'm asking myself these questions because that's the trail markers, right? That's the guideposts, right? That's the thing that's a kind of keeping me, true to my journey, right? And that applies to every situation, right? Everything. Everything. There's no situation that doesn't apply. All right, I'm not going to name them because they're all. And so, but beyond that, right? When Jerry said yesterday that it centers you to something, right? That's really an important part of this phrase, right? An important part of why I called that out and why I thought that quote was really cool for this conversation that we're having here, which this extended conversation that's of course mostly one way, but I love to hear back from you. So it is technically a conversation. But the idea is that when we develop this, right, when we develop this the thing that we're centered to, right, that thing, right. And Jerry in the interview yesterday, I don't know if any of you got to watch it, but he went on to say that it's not just, it doesn't have to just be music, right. It doesn't have to just be meditation. I mean, it can be, knitting. It could be, it could be anything. I mean, well, not anything, but it could be a lot of different things that you can do. But it's something that you're doing that is completely controlled by you. You don't need any other people, or any kind of special things to come together to make this thing happen. Something you can just do on your own, and that is completely determined by the success of which is completely determined by the energy you put into it, right? And so the idea then is that, and what occurred to me as I was, kind of pondering that and contemplating this episode today, is that. The how this work can make those hobbies that you have, or those interests and passions that you have, it can make it even better. Right, it can make it even more of whatever it is already, right? Because anything that you do, if you are present with it, if you are accepting of what arises in it, if you're curious about it, and if you're compassionate with yourself and with the thing, well, then it's always going to be a richer and more fulfilling experience for you. And this even applies to the Grateful Dead, which is crazy. I don't mean to use that word crazy. It's really not a pleasant word to use. So pardon me, but it's very, it's astounding that this even happens with the Grateful Dead. I spent from 1983 or 4 until like 1990 or so, I was pretty much going to the Grateful Dead shows every chance I could. Right, like that was what I did. Right, I went on tour. I camped out in the parking lots. I ate grilled cheese sandwiches for 2 weeks. The whole thing, and so I had a very full experience with that. But let me tell you something. Since I have developed the skills over the last 10 years of being present, being accepting, being compassionate, being curious, pardon me. When I listen to this music, I hear it with a depth that I never thought was possible, right? I'm able, and in fact, I use music as meditation a lot of times, and I can explain that to you another time. It's a very specific way in which I do it. But the idea is that even that has become a richer experience for me, right? But so has cycling for me, and that's a passion. So has my writing. So has my parenting. So has my being a husband. All of it has benefited, right? But that's not all, folks, right? It goes even further than that, right? And I like to tell people, a lot of the people that I talk to, especially in my learning to surf project, right, where I'm talking to people who are showing up to a Buddhist talk, and they're really looking to develop this, sort of spiritual practice, right? That will be more rich and more exciting and more fulfilling for you. Right, just even spirituality, which alone should be, and like that's like a huge thing alone, right? But if you can approach spirituality from this place of presence, acceptance, compassion, and curiosity, even your spirituality is going to benefit from that in a very, very deep way. But not even just that, right? That's not all. I think I mentioned the other day that I have one client who is an avid golfer. Right, he can't wait to get out there. Like it's the winter is just I'm feeling for the guy so much, but but he's an avid golfer and like a few times a week golfer kind of guy. And I know what that feels like. I used to be that guy too. I would love to get back into it, but busy. But anyway, he told me a story where he was playing a course that he hadn't played in a long time, but the last time he played it, the course, like, it was a beast. Like, he couldn't quote unquote beat the course, right? The course beat him, right? And his scores were always very high on this course. Now, he had already been telling me that his golf game, like, he was, shaving a point, a stroke here and there, because what he was saying was that the reason why mindfulness was helping him with his golf game is because with golf, one of the challenges is, as they say, let the last shot go and focus on the next shot, right? Because a lot of times what happens, golf can be the most frustrating game in the world, right? It's this little tiny ball you're hitting with a little stick, and it's so hard to get it right, and so many times the ball will go curving into the woods and, or into the sand or into the water or what have you, or into the deep grass, and it gets very frustrating, right? You feel like you're doing everything right, and the ball just doesn't go where you want it to go. And as you get frustrated, right, what happens is now you got to take the next shot, and you're frustrated. You're squeezing the stick a little bit, tighter, and your nervous system is not settled. Your heart's racing, and you're not really. And now you hit the next shot in the water or in the woods or what have you, right? So the idea is that if you can let that go and really be present, then you're gonna, just address this current shot, and generally speaking, you're gonna make a better shot. So your mistakes, and this is again just like the consequences that I talked about, right? You get upset about this golf shot, it's gonna impact the next golf shot, and the next one after that, and the next one after that. So anyway, long story short, my client shaved like 10 strokes off the course that he was, always, just like really thrashed him. And that was the last golf game that he played last season. So, so even golf, right? Like there is no hobby, no passion, no area of your life that will not benefit. Literally no area of your life that will not benefit from this work. And so if you want to learn how to do this right now, I've given everybody a lot of information, and for you sort of self-motivated folks out there, you have enough. You do. I've told you enough. You can do this, right? But it's hard to motivate yourself for this work. It really is, even with all these rewards out there. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to inspire you to know that the benefits are so great that why wouldn't I spend 10 minutes every day doing this practice, right? And then throughout the day and all that. But if you need that assistance, right, don't feel ashamed, because, everybody needs it, or at least, 90% of people need some assistance, some guidance, some inspiration, some motivation, some accountability, right? And if that's you, then I invite you to book a call with me, okay? Because we can talk about it, and we can, kind of, unpack what it is that's preventing you from doing it, and we can get around that, and I can help you. And it's a free call. Go to my website, artburnscoaching.com. At the bottom of every page, there is a banner with a clock on it. Click on the button in that banner. You go into my calendar program. Pick a day and a time that works for you. Put in your email address, your name, and that's it, I think. And just hit save, and then I'll take it from there. I'll send you a link. We'll start the conversation via email, and we'll get on the phone or Zoom together, and we'll unpack what it is that's standing in the way of you and being happy for no reason. Right? What is in the way of that? I'll help you get it out of the way. All right. Reminder: tomorrow I'm doing another session with it's a group meditation followed by a little talk. We're gonna take a little passage out of a book and read it. It's gonna be really fun. Starts 9 a.m. tomorrow in Mountain Time, so that's 11 a.m. on the East Coast, and 8 o'clock on the West Coast. But it's also accessible for those folks who are in Europe. So I'm going to put that link in the description here to join that, and I'll also put the link to book that call just to make it easier for you. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great day. I wish you well, and have a great day. And again, I do hope you have 2 great days today. I hope you have your day is so great that you need 2 days to hold the greatness. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.